Good morning. These are your morning headlines for December 12, 2024 here on BYU-Idaho Radio. I'm Austin Pace. A music producer and arranger in Utah has released a solo piano Christmas album. Student reporter Vanessa Willardson has the story.
Daniel Blomberg, a music producer and arranger in Utah, is also the co-founder of Blomberg Music Production, a company whose mission is to flood the earth with God's music. Blomberg said his faith is also an important part of his personal work and considers it to be his spiritual path. He believes talents are God-given and encourages others to develop their gifts.
I would just encourage everyone, if you're feeling like God has something for you to do with music, make a first step in the journey, because there's so much joy in developing our talents that God has given us.
Blomberg has released his first solo piano Christmas album, Sacred Christmas. Blomberg mainly arranges pieces for piano and orchestra. He said for the last 6 years, he had worked with others on their productions as a music producer.
It's really fun to take someone else's song and help it flesh out and come to life in the studio. So this was a little bit different because I actually had to originate all the songs.
Blomberg includes many lesser-known songs in his album, including a piece titled Christmas Night, an original song written by his mother-in-law, June Pope. Sacred Christmas is available to listen to on multiple streaming platforms, such as YouTube and Spotify. Blomberg also created a songbook of the piano arrangements. You may purchase it at www.blombergmusicproductions.com/Sacred Christmas. For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Vanessa Willardson.
46-year-old Twyla Dawn Basil of Bonners Ferry was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for the distribution of fentanyl that resulted in serious bodily injury and death. According to court records, in October of 2022, an inmate at the Boundary County Jail was found unconscious in her cell. Despite attempts to revive her by medical personnel, the victim unfortunately died. A toxicology report showed that the victim had a lethal dose of fentanyl in her system at the time of her death. The coroner ultimately determined the inmate had died of a fentanyl overdose. Local, state, and federal officials immediately started an investigation into the victim's death. Jail staff learned that shortly before the victim was found dead, Basil, who was in custody with her, had given the victim the drugs that she had smuggled into the facility. Basil had been arrested the day before for driving while under the influence of fentanyl. Fentanyl trafficking has been on the rise, not only in Idaho, but across the United States. It's a synthetic opioid that is 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. Pharmaceutical fentanyl was developed for severe pain management, often in the form of patches. While prescription fentanyl can be diverted or misused, most cases of fentanyl-related overdoses in the U.S. are linked to illegally made fentanyl that is sold through illicit drug markets, giving users an effect similar to heroin. Idaho in particular has seen a massive influx of these pills in the last several years. Often the pills are mass-produced by criminal drug networks and falsely marketed as legitimate prescription pills. The pills are made to look very similar to prescription opioids like Percocet or Xanax, or stimulants like Adderall. Criminal drug networks also increasingly distribute illicit fentanyl in a powder form. Authorities have found fentanyl powder mixed with other street drugs. The Idaho State Police remain steadfast in our commitment to protect our communities from the devastating impact of fentanyl and other illicit drugs, said Captain Paul Berger with the Idaho State Police District 1 in a news release from Idaho's U.S. Attorney's Office. This case underscores the tragic consequences for fentanyl trafficking and highlights the critical need for ongoing collaboration between agencies. Chief District Judge David C. Nye also ordered that Basil pay restitution to the family of the victim. Upon completion of her prison sentence, Basil will also be required to serve an additional 3 years of supervised release. After 17 years, a local soup kitchen has just passed a major milestone. The Community Dinner Table, or CDT, in Blackfoot has served 100,000 meals to people in need. For the last 17 years, more than 22 local churches and business groups have taken turns creating hot meals for people in need from November through March. The Idaho Food Bank says more than 11% of Idahoans experience food insecurity. With the need so great, the interfaith group is feeding more than 7,550 pounds of food to 150 families each month, Local 8 News reports. In honor of the achievement, the CDT has partnered with the Blackfoot Movie Mill to provide every person who came to the dinner with a ticket for the theater. Next week, CDT expects to feed over 350 people for an early Christmas dinner. Thanks for making us part of your morning routine. These have been your morning headlines for December 12th, 2024. We've got more great content for you anytime you want it. Just search for BYU-Idaho Radio on your favorite podcast app. You can also ask your smart speaker to play KBYI 94.3 FM. We're also online. Head on over to byui.edu/radio to listen there. For BYU-Idaho Radio, I'm Austin Pace.